morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm very excited to be here, and I'm sure you are too. And like Cheryl rightly introduced me, my name is Staveley, and today I'll be speaking about the payment threat landscape, today and tomorrow. But while I was preparing for this talk, a couple of memories came, running through my mind. One of them that was very profound was the memory of the time my husband and I went on this lovely vacation last year. We went to Seychelles, and we had a nice time. Think about all the lovely things you can do. We went snorkeling, for example, and we got back to our home country, Nigeria. And just to put it out there, I came here from Nigeria, and I live in Nigeria. And of course, like the government will usually require you, we did a test a day after returning. And when he went in, he did his test, and he came out negative. Guess what my result was? Anyone wants to guess? Okay, I tested positive for COVID. And if I was to ask anyone in this room, how many of you have had COVID? Almost everyone, right? If you haven't had COVID, I should check you. But imagine my husband and I going on this holiday. We were on the same flights to and from the Seychelles. We tested negative in Seychelles. We got back to Nigeria. He tested negative as well, but I was positive. And it got me thinking about a lot of similarities this experience we had could be likened to the payment threat landscape. Because for a fact, COVID is to our economy what cybercrime has become to the digital payment ecosystem. Now, why am I making this sort of assertion? It's because COVID, for example, has turned down the very things that make us, easily trust each other, easily collaborate across borders. I mean, before now, we could easily travel. We didn't need to do some tests, take some vaccines, and things like that. But when COVID hit, what happened? We all stayed in our countries. A lot of us had walls built up. And we have seen the same thing with cybercrime. And so another key thing that was a similarity for me was the fact that I was asymptomatic. I could have walked past you. I had no cough issue. My sense of smell was here. I had everything normal, just some piece of paper that said I had COVID. And a part of me did not believe I had COVID because I had none of those symptoms. And it's very similar to the way some cyber attacks happen. Everything will still look normal and good as well, right? Until you find out that actually the bad guys are taking out data, exfiltrating data from your environment. But everything will look all well and good until that moment. And it was until that moment a piece of paper said that there was something different about me from my husband, and I needed to be isolated and treated. That changed everything. You know what also changed everything? I beat COVID in 3 days. I still think that's my own little miracle. But you see, the world is evolving, and while cybercrime is evolving as well, we will not be judged as custodians of data for just having a cyber attack, because it's not a matter of if, but when. And a matter of also how quickly you recover from it. I beat COVID in 3 days, possibly because my immune system was doing a great job as well, and it was assisted sufficiently. Exactly what our information systems as well should be doing with the data. And as I looked at all of these things as well, I looked at the fact that my husband could actually be in the same space and not contact the virus as well, as also possibly a proof of his immune system. And so I think about how the world is as well. We are one connected globe. We are not just connected by the internet, we're also connected by threats. What do I mean? I flew from Seychelles to Nigeria, and very much could have brought the virus back home to infect more people, and could have flown to DC as well. And we saw that with the way the virus traveled from Asia to America to Africa very easily and fluidly, because we are so interconnected, more interconnected than we possibly know. So threat in one part of the world could very well be the same kind of threat, in other parts of the world. And I'm going to be exactly showing you this. In my presentation today, I'm going to be starting off with some of the threats that, affect the whole world, globally speaking. But then, because I come from Africa, I also give you a peek into what's happening there. And why should Africa interest you? I'm also going to be telling you that as well. I'm going to be answering those questions. Because it's an emerging market that you should definitely be looking at if you're not already looking into the space. So what is it that's unique in terms of the threats that we see in Africa? So yeah, I like the fact that he's brought out his notebook, because I'm sure he's going to be writing, and you all should too as well. So the first thing globally I like to think about in terms of threats would be increased attacks in cloud environments. I was hoping this was going to make you laugh, but I could laugh on your behalf. There was a time when the cloud was seen as computers, or the cloud over us. Computers were somewhere in the cloud over us. But we know differently now. And we're seeing that the threats are morphing as more people begin to embrace the cloud, to store data, to use the infrastructure, to do lots of things there. That cyber criminals are also increasingly targeting the cloud as well. We're also seeing a lot of phishing. And I find that this word is, the fact that this word actually is very similar to the act of phishing, with a hook and everything similar to the way both things work, is very fascinating. We're also seeing that phishing is an all-time favorite tool of cyber attackers, because it's very effective. And recently I wrote an article on Forbes that was speaking about emotions and how cyber criminals actually leverage emotions. I'm going to get to that very soon. But we're also seeing that phishing is increasingly evolving, getting smarter, and targeting people very well. So let's ensure we are not the fishes of the fishers. Another very strong threat we see increasingly evolving is ransomware. Literally, your money or your data, right? And many people have many conversations about, should you pay the ransom, should you not? I mean, in my opinion, that's a business decision. But we're seeing increasingly the ransomware attacks are really stealing the show. But another very interesting one we're seeing, and this hasn't gone away, is compromised passwords. A lot of the attacks we're seeing are starting off from passwords being stolen somewhere. Someone using the same password everywhere. And we make very silly jokes. We say things like, oh, if you don't wear the same underwear every day, we should definitely have different passwords. But how practical is that? How have we been able to communicate it in a way that actually helps the users to be able to see a practical way around doing the things we want, but in a way that keeps them secure as well? So yeah, like this guy, thank you very much for actually helping me keep them, for actually helping me know them, because I don't know them myself. But credential theft and manipulation is quite a big threat that we're seeing already enabling other threats as well. Supply chain attacks. I mean, this one is very, very interesting, and it's growing and fascinating as well. One of the biggest attacks, or some of the biggest attacks that have happened in as far away as America, has affected companies, big corporates, and enterprises in Africa, across Africa and across Europe. So it shows again my analogy of being so interconnected, that we're not just interconnected by the internet, but also the threats that can flow down from your supplier to, from the vendor to the customer, and vice versa as well. So we need to look at the landscape, the threat landscape, in a more holistic way, ensuring that everyone on that chain is as strong as we are. So I'm now going to go down or trickle down to the threats that actually really impact Africa. Okay? And why this is so profound is that technology is taking up speed in Africa. While the rest of the world was slowing down because of the pandemic, what happened in my part of the world is that we've begun to see how caught up we have been and how we needed to catch up with the rest of the world. very, very interestingly, we also needed to, for example, continue to send money across. We needed to continue to do our work, and we needed to also ensure that the other kind of COVID we don't speak about, which is poverty, which could kill us faster than COVID, we could also ensure that we don't get caught up in that. And so necessity became the mother of invention. I wouldn't say that wasn't the case before COVID, but what has happened is that COVID has put that on steroids. We need to innovate faster and really grow strongly. Now, I'll give you an example of that sort of innovation. Do you like my outfit today? Oh, come on, tell me, don't be shy. Do you like my outfit today? Great, thank you, thank you. I got it off Instagram, not from any fancy commercial e-commerce store. And this is something that is very, very normal in my part of the world. There's a lot of trading that's happening on even social media sites because people need to trade, people need to do this in ways that you would not even imagine to make an earning and living for themselves. Interestingly as well, I bought this full price, and just about everything I have, I most likely buy full price and pay upfront. Now, why is this important to distinguish? It's because you have the luxury of credit in this part of the world. There's a lot of data helping people make decisions around selling to you on credit and having you pay over time. Now, buy now, pay later is a model that's actually just growing and beginning to come into African markets. So you see, we have these many issues around, for example, internet penetration that is suddenly growing at very high speed. We also have high penetration of mobile devices. And so we also have innovations such as mobile money. As a matter of fact, the mobile money market in Africa is bigger than anywhere else in the world. So we use our phones a lot to make transactions. So recently someone made a joke and said something about her phone, having to pay for most things using her phone and mobile money. So mobile money and all of those kind of innovative payments and trading platforms is catering to the unbanked a lot more. Another key context, because before we start to speak about the threats, you need to know why these things are important. Another key context I want to show you is that innovation is at cheetah speed, but then security is at snail speed. So security is lagging far behind. And so it's taking quite a while for security to catch up. And this trend is very remarkable for you to note, because it explains quite a lot that happens in the space. Another key thing is there's an incredible pace of digitization across Africa. A lot of things that used to be done manually are now being digitized. But again, there's a heavily fragmented ecosystem. And there's a need to integrate the trade across borders. Why this is so profound is recently there's also a new development that is going to allow for the whole of the African region to enjoy something that Europe is very accustomed to pre-Brexit. We are also going to be able to trade and move across very freely when that particular bill is brought into, is actually really brought in. So we said there's a high number of methods of payment. There are so many. I think there are about 257 right now. So the ecosystem is really fragmented at the moment. Another very interesting trend, I think I'd already mentioned it. This is a feature phone. A woman in rural parts of Africa, and trust me, they're very, very bougie and very nice sides of Africa as well. But this woman in the rural sides of Africa is able to make payments across her region using her feature-based phone that only just takes calls, answers text messages with, but also is able to make payments. I mean, think about it. When you think about your mobile phone and making payments, what do you think? Oh, name it. Let's name some payment methods on your smartphone. Anyone wants to go? Some payment methods on your smartphone. We spoke about some backstage. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry? Your phone. Exactly. So you could pay using your iPhone, for example, right? And that's what you think about. But what we are also seeing that this woman with her feature phone can actually do a lot of payments. And we're seeing something that is also very profound. The telcos or mobile money wallets are quite very pervasive in our part of the world. We're beginning to see that telcos are also becoming banks. Yes, telcos are increasingly becoming banks across Africa. Most of them have gotten the licenses to operate as banks. The kiosks by the roadside can actually be a bank branch as well. Isn't that fascinating? Yes, that's exactly what innovation has done. As a matter of fact, the amount of transactions that are completed using mobile money is bigger than the GDP of Africa's biggest, or the country in Africa with the biggest GDP, which is Nigeria. So the transactions are actually bigger than a country's GDP, the biggest country in Africa. So Africa is the largest adopter of mobile phones for payments. There's also something we call the fintech boom. Everyone is funding a fintech because why? We need to ensure that we're able to bank the unbanked. People like Mama Philo that I just spoke about just a few minutes ago, the woman with the feature phone. So we need to bank all of those people in their millions. So there's a lot of money to be made. There's a drive, of course, to serve the underserved and to ensure that everyone is included. So this different economics around these things make this particular market very interesting. There's also the issues of the payment regulatory landscape and cyber maturity. So we know that the GDP, for example, GDPR, for example, is embraced across Africa. But what we have seen as well in my part of the world is every country is coming up with their own data protection regulations. And so that landscape where everyone has something to say about how you should store data, how you should securely transmit it, and what you should do when it's in rest is also something that brings a special dimension to the African threat landscape. There's also exponential growth in e-commerce and social commerce adoption. I've just spoken about my suit and maybe my shoes as well, but generally speaking, all of these transformations are powered by e-payments. There's also increased development in infrastructure and investment in it as well. And so credit solutions are also picking up steam because now we can begin to tap data from somewhere and say, okay, is she creditworthy? Is he creditworthy? That's beginning to happen. But if you speak about the threat landscape, what keeps the CISO up at night could be different from what keeps Mama Philo, the lady on the with the feature-based phone I spoke about, what keeps her up at night? What keeps the switching company up at night could also be different. And so what I have done is I have broken down the threats into 3 groups. The traditional establishments. By traditional establishments, I mean the banks, and everyone that looks like them. And I also have the innovation enablers, the people who are coming into the ecosystem freshly to be able to empower and drive these kind of innovations that are taking up steam in Africa. And then we have the customer, the people who no one cares about, the people who, we just want their money. But when they get attacked, what happens? We can't even bring them into the ecosystem anymore. We can't bring the unbanked because what has happened? They have just been defrauded. And they say, you know what? Banking isn't for me. I mean, I can keep my money in a little box close to my bed. It doesn't matter if I get robbed or not, So we are seeing that it's very important for everyone to be covered, to be protected, and to be educated about how to keep their data secure. So I'd like to describe Africa's threat landscape or payment threat landscape as a salad bowl. And I know that this doesn't look like a kind of salad you're used to, but this is what we call African salad as well. So it's quite a mix. And I'm going to show you what that mix looks like just now. So we have financially motivated threats in abundance. A lot of people don't want to just hack because they want to show you their cool kit. No way. We want to make money. We want to buy the nice cars. We want to show our neighbor that they've got nothing on us. Okay, we want to go to church and shut down church and sit in front of church and make a huge donation. We want to be able to go to the club and buy drinks for everyone. That's what a majority of the cyber criminals or cybercrime players would want to do, commit cybercrime for. We are also seeing in Africa that a lot of state-sponsored attacks are having a feast in my part of the world. And the benefits they're reaping for this is helping them build nuclear weapons, helping them evade sanctions, for example. We're seeing just a little teeny weeny bit of hacktivists, people who want to just hack because, okay, I've just shown you that, okay, police brutality is an issue. So because police brutality is an issue, I would make sure I target and bring down the police website. We saw that during the NSAS protest and things like that. And then we have one more group that, just falls in between all of this. So, but what are the major threats to customers? I want to assume everyone in this room understands what social engineering is, and I am sure I won't be wrong to really assume that. So we're seeing that a lot of the cyber crimes start off with social engineering. And why is this very important to note? Is because digital literacy is also very low in Africa. We're also seeing physical theft of devices. I mentioned earlier that most payments are made with mobile phones. So what this means is when your mobile phone is stolen, it's not just stolen to be sold on the black market. It's also stolen so that the credentials on your mobile phone can be used to make payments as well. We're also seeing that this also allows things like SIM swap fraud to happen easily as well. There's also business email compromise, the guy I call the silent thief. So the guy who, when this kind of crime happens, what happens is a lot of people get shy. Oh my God, I don't want to be seen as a corporate that's stupid. So we're going to keep this hush-hush. We've just lost $100,000, and we won't say anything about it. So when you think about business email compromise, and you only think Western countries, suffer this, we also suffer it as well. And so this is a threat that is also very much shared. We also have a lot of online scams and account hijacks. Imagine if the online vendor I bought this lovely suit from had the account hijacked around the time I made the payment. I was going to make the payments for it. What would happen? I would think I have bought this nice two-piece suit and find out that I had just made the payment to a cyber criminal. So increasingly, we are seeing this kind of hijacks happen, but not just social media accounts. It's also cloud accounts, for example, that hold very sensitive data. We're also seeing a high rise of mobile malware. Remember, this is also a market that is mobile first. We use mobile for just about everything. So we're also seeing malware that is targeting mobile devices. And I have seen this in a very, very profound way, even with very educated people that understand cyber awareness as well. We've seen targeted threats at a lot of people that are very, very interesting. But one of the attacks I really want to dwell on is the insider threat. This is one of the top attacks we're seeing a lot as well. People within organizations selling data, selling access to data, planting malware as well. So, you should really take note of these, especially if you want to really protect the payment threat landscape. We saw early in October 2020 that there was an attack that cost a company in Uganda $3.2 million. And it came off an insider threat when investigations began. But I would also say that we are sort of in the case of a boiling frog situation where we sort of think, you know what, it's not that bad. And some other person is an alarmist. Oh my God, it's not going to happen to me. God forbid, it's the other guy over there. So there is a sense of denial, and everyone feels, you know what, it's not that bad, it's not going to happen to me. Or some people even feel, what do I have that the cyber criminals want? So there are sorts of mindsets that we need to first begin to change so we can have everyone embracing data security and, of course, protecting the threat landscape properly. And I'm going to be touching on the top threats as well right now. But when I think about these threats, I also think about them in the context of PCI's compliance regulations and the steps that have been laid out. And I think about how flexibility, for example, could help us protect data in Europe and help us with the same standards protect data in Africa, and with the same standards help protect data in America. And one thing I found very profound is the need for flexibility in compliance. The need for what? Flexibility in compliance, because one size will not fit all. We need to be able to take the standards and be able to apply them in a different market in a way that allows for compliance to happen, but in a way that also allows flexibility. So great. So these are some of the top threats that I'm going to highlight as emerging threats, so that we can also bear these in mind. The first one I'm going to be speaking about is API threats, API-related threats. I spoke about how fragmented the ecosystem is. What does that tell you? It also tells you that it's a problem that a lot of people are beginning to address. So APIs are beginning to connect the systems, but how secure are they as they connect and transmit data across? How secure are they? There's another side of this topic I'd like to talk about. It's a bit very touchy, so please keep an open mind. When I started this presentation, I spoke about being Nigerian. And I would typically say I'm a Nigerian, but not a princess. And I know that because a lot of us sort of are uptight about, people from that region. And I think I understand why you would feel that way. But I also believe that that presents us a unique opportunity. I am currently sharing about the threats because I understand them very, very clearly, especially how they play out in my space and how they affect other people that do not live in my part of the world. But I'm also seeing that that presents a unique opportunity. And what is the opportunity? Like Cheryl said, if we're able to get people who look like their adversaries also defending, what does that make us be able to do? We're able to be stronger defenders. We're able to know what the moves are. We're able to outsmart them because we know just how they would think. So when we see a rise in talents, in cyber talents like we're seeing in Africa, what that should show us is instead of shutting the door at talents like them because they are on some part of the world that we feel is infiltrated by cyber criminals, maybe we can take a smarter move at vetting this type of talents and getting them on board to help protect data across the world. We're seeing a high increase of these talents as well. So while there is high interest in taking up cybercrime as a career, there's also high interest of genuine people who are sincere and want to help defend as well. There's also a high level of digitally enabled services, especially in the financial space. But a lot of them are not prioritizing security enough. We're also seeing a lot of introduction of regulation into the space. Everyone wants to tell us how things should be done. Another bit we should talk about is the expanding supply chain attacks as well. And a third thing will be cybercrime as what? A service. Anyone could build a ransomware these days. So what are my predictions for the future? I think that my predictions are very, very interesting, and I want to be able to come here in 5 years and say, I told you so, right? So yeah, let's have an I told you so moment in the future. The first thing I'm predicting is we're going to have a massive adoption of AI and ML to help prevent fraud. Another key thing I'm predicting is a threat-led penetration testing approach to risk management in the payment land and the payment space. A key thing I'm also predicting is advanced malware, especially advanced malware capability for mobile targeted attacks. Another key thing is I'm looking at how the trade agreements that we have right now, which is the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, is going to allow for us to be able to freely trade amongst each other, and how that also impacts the threat landscape is a key consideration to really, really make. We're also going to see the rise of open banking. So with all of that happening, we need to ensure we are protecting the payment information that's transmitted. But then, what are some tips I'm going to give you, because my time is almost spent? What are some tips I'm going to give you around cybersecurity awareness? The first key tip I'm going to give is around gamification. People need to enjoy cybersecurity awareness. And I'm going to show you some examples of gamification. It's also important that we teach cybersecurity awareness with examples so that people can see themselves through those examples and take the right action. Recently, I was targeted with a phishing attack, and when I shared about it, especially showing the screenshots, that particular tweet got to 500,000 people. And we need to increasingly really adopt the example of using examples to teach about cybersecurity. But I'm going to show you an interesting video I made recently. I hope you don't laugh too loudly.
Tell me something that you wish more people understood.
Great. I also believe very strongly in leveraging short-form content to augment already existing cybersecurity awareness, such that we have cybersecurity trainings happening as a continuum and not something that happens as an event. We need to creatively be able to tap this to increasingly encourage people to take the right habits. Another key thing I really, really encourage us to do is teach about cybersecurity awareness, but from an emotions perspective. You see, unlike computers, we do what? We feel, and so we take actions based on these emotions. We need to teach our users what those emotional triggers are. And this article I wrote and published on Forbes is quite a fantastic guide for anyone who needs to address the root cause of social engineering in the very first place. And I think creative ways to really teach it is very interesting and should actually be taken up. Let me show you another video.
You have boyfriend?
No, I don't have a boyfriend.
Honey, why you don't have? You look so pretty, like model, cheerleader, something pretty. You like long or short nail?
Short nails.
Oh, honey, that's why you don't have boyfriend.
Indeed. So we could use that method, but we need to basically use innovation, bring in innovation, make cybersecurity fun again, make it interesting, and not just something we need to tick up on the box for users. Okay, this user has had cybersecurity awareness. Let's begin to think about engaging ways to use content that's entertaining yet cybersecurity driven to actually teach about cyber awareness. And as I come to a close with my presentation, I want to remind you of something that I've somehow made a note of saying in different ways throughout this conversation, which is the fact that no one of us is safe until we are all safe. And there's so much we can do together, but all that's missing is confidence. Thank you so much. It can be louder.